time to talk about luxury cruising. From suite so sweet to ships elite. Come explore the world in style with me on Luxury Cruising, the podcast.
Hey, it's Krystal here. Before we get started, did you know that there is a way for you to directly support the podcast? Head over to my website, luxurycruising.net, and you can buy me a latte, a glass of champagne, or even a whole bottle of champagne if you want. Leave me a note, and I'll be sure to give you a shout out on the next episode. That's luxurycruising.net. You can also leave me a note or ask a question. Okay, let's get on with the show. Welcome back to Luxury Cruising. I'm your host, Krystal Sodaitis, and I'm so glad you're with me again this week. This week, I've got some Q&A about luxury cruising. I thought I would put together some of the most common questions that I get about luxury cruising. If you have a question about luxury cruising, please, you can put it in the comments in this podcast episode, or you could just email me at luxurycruisingpodcast@gmail.com. It's always in the show notes, but in case you just want to hear it one more time, it's luxurycruisingpodcast@gmail.com. Please, if you have any questions about this episode, about luxury cruising in general, I would love for you to write in and I will definitely answer it on the show. So of the questions I have this week, the first is, what actually makes a cruise luxurious? And how is a luxury cruise line different from a premium or mainstream cruise line? And so I want to break that up into two different things, because what makes a cruise luxurious is really dependent on the person. You know, I ask all of my guests how they define luxury. So for one person, luxury may mean ease, that when they get on the ship, everything is easy, everything is taken care of. For another person, luxury means space, that they're not shoulder to shoulder with people all the time on a giant, centrum or promenade, or that they don't have to jockey for seats for the entertainment. That what makes a cruise luxurious is different for everybody. When I think of a luxurious cruise or a luxury cruise, I really think about service. The service is exceptional, almost anticipatory, right? I don't need to always be asking for, can I have this? Can I have that? Can I have, my water filled or whatever? It's thought of beforehand and it's done for me. So that's one of the things I think about when I think about a luxury cruise. I also think about a ship decor, that it's usually modern, sleek, clean lines. That's what I think of when I think of luxury. Definitely space. The number of people on board is not, or at least in that area, is not as many. There's not as much density of people. Those are the kinds of things I think of when I think of luxury. Now, when we think of a premium or a mainstream cruise line, what makes them different from a luxury line? Well, first, it's usually the size of the ship. Not universally, but most premium or mainstream cruise lines are going to be in the 2, 3, even up to 7,000 passengers per ship. Luxury cruise lines are usually less than that. It's usually 1,000, maybe 2,000, but then we know it might go all the way down to just 100 passengers on the ship. Your premium and your mainstream cruise lines are going to have a really wide variety of things to do, food options, entertainment options. It can be an all-day event, just going from activity to activity. The luxury lines may not have that many activities, but they're not going to appeal as much to children and younger travelers because they're not going to have the bells and whistles. A mainstream cruise line is going to have a rock climbing wall, a roller coaster, a zip line, all of those kinds of things you're going to find on a mainstream cruise line. You're not really going to find those on a premium cruise line, but they will have some dedicated children's programming, usually a children's space. Luxury cruise lines are not going to have dedicated children's space. That doesn't mean that the majority of them do take children. They all have their minimum age you have to be in order to cruise. But as of right now, from the luxury standpoint, really only Oceania does not allow children. You could put Viking up there. I do consider Viking luxury. And Virgin, I think, is a premium cruise line, also doesn't take children. So, for the most part, the differences between a luxury cruise line and a premium or mainstream cruise line are going to be the number of passengers, size of the ship, the amount of activities available, and then definitely the service, right? Because you're going to have a lower passenger to crew ratio. I had to think about that one for a minute. Is it higher or lower? Right. Or, you're going to be closer to 1 in terms of number of passengers to number of crew. It might be 2 to 1, it might be 4 to 1, but it's not going to be, I would think, I don't know for sure, but on a mainstream cruise line, you're probably looking at 10 to 1 in terms of crew to passenger ratio. But I would tell you also that most premium and mainstream cruise lines, especially in the newer ships built in the last 10 years or so, they have a suite class. We've talked to a lot of people who have been in the Haven, in Star Class. They have a suite class, they have a ship within a ship concept where you have the opportunity to be separated from the majority of the passengers and of the ship. Generally, your own sun deck, maybe a pool, maybe a restaurant. You're not going to find that on a luxury cruise line because you really don't need it. There's not a ton of people. There's usually plenty of space at the pool. The service is excellent. So, you don't find a ship within a ship concept on a luxury line. The next question that comes up a lot is, what is the difference between a genie, a butler, and a concierge? And I'm going to take this one backwards because, like, the concierge to the butler to the genie, those are increasing grades for me. So, a concierge is somebody that works not just for you, the proportion of people or the number of people that the concierge serves is generally higher than a butler or a genie. The concierge can do things for you like um, they will make reservations for a show. They might help you understand how to get transportation when you go to a port. Do you need a taxi? I've had a concierge print out a map for me because I wanted to know how to walk to a certain place in a port. The concierges can help you with mostly what, like, when you would go to the service desk or customer service or guest relations, the concierge kind of serves as a guest relations agent, but for a smaller number of people, so you don't have to wait in the long line for guest services. I remember when Hollis, who was telling us about a grand suite, and he told us that he went to a suite lounge concierge, and because he had lost his room card, they just printed out a new one instead of having to go all the way down to guest services and wait in the line and get a new key card. CPass card, that's what they are. CPass card printed out. So that's the kind of things that a concierge can do for you. Now, the butler works more, and the concierge usually is in an outside area, a suite lounge or a specialty area. The butler now works specifically for you within your room. These are usually found either on luxury lines. There are some luxury lines where everybody has a butler. And then there are on premium and mainstream cruise lines, when you have a certain level of suite, you get a butler. And the butler again works anything you need in your room. If you need snacks, if you need more drinks, some butlers will, unpack and even pack for you. That's like crossing a line for me. I may not mind somebody unpacking me, but I'm not having somebody pack my dirty clothes. Like, that's not happening. But, those are the kinds of things. A butler, we had Matt who was on Silver Sea, and he had talked about how one day his butler had drawn him a bath. And I think he put some like scents in there, had some fresh popcorn for him in his room. So the butler really takes care of you inside of your room and can get you things if you need. When Jennifer was talking about the Haven, she talked about how her butler almost scolded her saying like, "Oh no, if you need room service, you call me. I get the room service food up for you, hot and ready." So that's kind of what the butler does. Now, the genie is almost like a butler on steroids. Royal genies are limited to Royal Caribbean ships. Actually, this just changed. I was about to say Royal Caribbean ships that have suite classes, the star class, the sky class, and the sea class. And if you are in the highest class, which is the star class, you get a Royal Genie. Now, on other Royal Caribbean ships, you can buy up to the Genie experience. So even though these other ships don't have that suite class of rooms, they do offer the Royal Genie experience. And what a genie does is they're not gonna unpack for you. I'll tell you the Royal Genie's not gonna unpack for you, and they won't draw you a bath, but they will do certain nice things for you in your room. They certainly help you with any food that you need delivered. When you're in that class of suite on Royal Caribbean, you can have any food from any of the Royal Caribbean restaurants brought to your stateroom, and you can eat in your stateroom. The genie doesn't bring it to you, but they facilitate it so that you get it in a timely manner and so that it's hot and you don't have to go through the rigmarole of ordering it. You basically just tell the genie what they want and they take care of it. Genie also can get you, from point A to point B. We've talked a lot about like the expedited elevators. On Star Class, you don't get a little medallion that helps you in a special elevator, but the genie can do that. The genie helps you with priority embarkation. They escort you through priority debarkation. They do little things like if you're going to a show, they might reserve your seats, the seats that you want, and they might bring you some popcorn. They make sure that you have drinks beforehand. They make all of your reservations. They make all of your show reservations. The genie really does, it's really one-on-one service that extends beyond your room. It can be almost anywhere in the ship. Next question is luxury cruising worth it? Is it worth the higher price tag for the value that you actually get? And I have to tell you, for the most part, yes. And also, it depends. If it's something that you value, if you value being on a cruise and being in a space with not a lot of people around you where it's much quieter and have a server that's basically always just standing around waiting to take your drink or your food order, then yes, it's absolutely worth it. But if you just want to be on a ship and you don't mind being in an inside stateroom and you just listen to this podcast because you're kind of like me, like you like to hear about luxury, but maybe you're not living in luxury all the time, then no, then it wouldn't be worth it for you. But I think that there is an ability to get a luxurious cruise experience and get on a luxury cruise line that doesn't break the bank. There are inexpensive luxury trips out there. You just have to find them. And we've talked about Explora, and the price tag for Explora journeys is pretty competitive because they are a relatively new luxury cruise line. You can get a suite on Explora journeys for less than what you might get a suite on a contemporary or premium cruise line. And that's because the people who are buying the suites on a contemporary or premium cruise line want luxury and a higher level of service, but they also want to be in all of the action. And that's totally fine. But if you don't want all that action, but you still want a luxurious experience, but maybe don't want to pay tens of thousands of dollars for a 1 week cruise, you can find that on a luxury line. And what do you get included? Right? You get Wi-Fi, you get your drinks, you get some excursions. When you even start to add all of that up, even on some of the newer ships like Norwegian Aqua, right? I would bet that even a balcony stateroom on one of those ships, when you start adding in maybe your gas and specialty dining, you get the Wi-Fi, you get the drinks, you're butting up against the cost of a luxury cruise line. Now, are you going to get at the same time the racetrack, the go-kart track? You're not going to get Guy's Burgers or Blue Iguana or Cagney's on Norwegian. but you will have that. You will still get a great experience and perhaps even better. The next question is, which cruise lines or ship within the ship experiences are best for first timers? And this one I also think is just such a hard question. Because again, it depends on what does that first timer want. I think that for a first timer who just wants to try luxury, I would definitely go with something like an Explorer Journeys or a Silver Sea or Seabourn, Oceana. Not like the ultra premium, not like a Crystal or like a Scenic. If you just want to get a general sense of what luxury cruising is like, not ultra luxury, then I think one of those, and I have never sailed on Oceana, Silver Seabourn or Explore Journeys. I hope to one day, but from talking to all of the people that I talk to, I feel like they're almost equal, but they have little nuances. And so maybe you talk to some other people who have done them. Maybe you talk to your travel agent to see which one fits you best. You look at the itinerary, you look at the price, you look at the, layout of the ship. I'm sure many of them have um YouTube videos with a ship tour, and then you decide which one fits you better. If you're looking for a luxury experience, but maybe you're doing multi-generational, maybe you have kids, then I would definitely go with a ship within a ship concept. Something like, MSC Yacht Club or Royal Caribbean Suite Class, because then you have your, sanctuary. It's not the princess sanctuary, but you have your sort of private space, quiet space away from the, large groups of people. But then you also have the opportunity to, if you want to go to the comedy club, if you want to do the zip line, you still have that there. And there are many more options in terms of food and dining, more people to talk to and meet. So if that's what you like, then the ship within a ship concept is probably the best way for you to go. Another question that comes up a lot is, how do I choose the right suite or stateroom for my needs? And, this is so personal because it really depends. I'm gonna just go with suite class and not even talk about, like, inside room or ocean view, like, we're not going there. This is just higher end suites. How do I know which is the right suite for me? And I really think that it's hard to go wrong because I can tell you that a two-bedroom aqua theater suite is really loud. And I will never again sail in a suite that faces the aqua theater because it's not just that they're doing the shows, it's also that they are rehearsing every single day. So sometimes for hours during the day, you're hearing the music and all of the rehearsal stuff for the aqua show. And it took away from my enjoyment of the balcony. And so if that is you, then perhaps you don't want that. Perhaps you do want an aft facing balcony. I would have preferred to look out. Aft facing is where you're looking at the back of the boat and you see the wake of the boat, and it's just the most beautiful view. And I think I may have preferred that. I think I've mentioned it before that I have had a Central Park balcony, and at first I really didn't like it. I did not like it because it was so noisy. But then I grew to appreciate it because when you're on your balcony, and if you were in this aft facing balcony, it is quiet, it is beautiful, but you're kind of alone. And some people may really like that. What I liked about the Central Park balcony, and sometimes you would get, I've actually stayed in two Central Park balconies, one that was really close to the pool deck where I had pool deck noise, and one that was sort of like in the middle and I had Central Park noise. And I felt like I was on my balcony, but I was still on the ship. I was still involved in the ship life, and I grew to really like that. So, just things to consider. I mean, I think in general, obviously, if you're prone to seasickness, I'm not. So I think it's like middle of the boat, definitely middle of the boat, maybe lower deck. I personally don't like being on a lower deck. I don't like staying like below deck 9. I just prefer to be up higher away from the water. You're usually closer to some things when you're on deck nine. So, this is where a great travel agent that understands, you can talk to them about what you're thinking, what your likes are, what your dislikes are, and where your travel agent can really be very, very helpful in helping you decide where the best suite or stateroom is for your needs. And obviously, if you have special needs and you need an accessible bathroom, you need to talk about that too. That goes without saying in terms of this question. Then for our last question, this is something that comes up, and I completely understand this. Like on a big ship, there's always something to do. We talked about that a little bit earlier. The cruise planner, and there's activity after activity after activity. I still think it's very hard to be bored on a cruise ship, and especially because there's always something to do. And on a larger ship, especially on a premium line, whether it's the pool or the aforementioned, some of them have a ropes course. Or, there's usually a sport court where some dance class is going on, or watching a show, or there's a game show or trivia during the day. And then at night, often there are so many bars, and the bars all have music playing. And then there's a theater show. And so there's so much to do on a big ship. And on a smaller luxury ship, people say, like, I'm going to get bored. Like, there just isn't that much to do. And while you're not going to find a Broadway show, those bigger production shows are unlikely to happen on a luxury ship. But I will say that because of the smaller ships and the luxury lines, they are also very discerning in the entertainment that they get. And so the entertainment that does come on, from all that I have heard, is excellent. It's very high quality. The people are very talented. Sometimes the crew put on a show. They put on a talent show that they get very excited about. They do play games and sometimes trivia. Sometimes there's karaoke. And because there's such a small ship, you get to know people. And so that almost makes karaoke even more fun. Often smaller luxury lines will bring on performers that are from the area. So you really get immersed in the culture, and they have local acts, either performing music or doing their craft or whatever on board, which is really amazing. So I don't think that you are likely to get bored. Will the entertainment be different? Yes. Do you sometimes have to just roll with it and go with the punches? Yeah. And then you could just, go in your room, relax. And something that took me a long time to come to understand with cruising is that it really is okay to do nothing. Like, you don't have to fill every single moment with something to do. Going from bingo to karaoke to trivia. Sometimes it's okay. I think my kids really showed me this because they were like, I'm just going to go chill in the room. And at first I was like, you're going to chill in the room. You can do that at home. But it's like, you're on vacation. Like, this is vacation. You can chill. Right? I can go sit on my balcony. I can take a nap. I don't have to have my day fully packed every day by the entertainment stuff. Actually, I do have one more question that came in. I'm in my 30s. I can totally afford to go luxury, but I'm worried that I'll be the only person my age. Yeah. I think that you may not be the only person in their 30s, but there won't be a lot. Mostly on luxury lines, there are going to be mostly older people, but there are kids there. Sometimes older people bring their younger children, right? If you're somebody in your 60s or 70s and you want to take your whole family along, maybe you bring your kids. We had Megan on, who's in her 30s, who did her honeymoon on Explorer Journeys. She said, yeah, there weren't a lot, but we've had people do biking. I think she was in her 20s on Viking, doing a Viking river cruise, and she absolutely loved it. Bradley is in his 30s. I think he's just 30, and he's doing 6-star cruises. He absolutely loves it. If you like cruising, then you're going to meet and talk to other people who like cruising, even if they're 10 years older than you. You have that in common. And I think the other thing too is, if you are taking a very specific cruise, for example, when Mo was on, Mo talked about her Azamara cruise around Ireland. It didn't matter if they were 15, 20, 30 years older than her. Everybody was interested in seeing Ireland. And so you naturally have people that you're going to talk to. Are you going to be the only person your age? Possibly, but why is that a problem? Maybe you are, but maybe everybody else that you're talking to is also really, really interesting. So that's the Q&A, my very first Q&A episode. If you have a question about luxury cruising, I won't hold it for another Q&A episode. I will read it right away on the podcast. And once again, I just want to thank you all for joining me. And until next time, I wish you safe and luxurious cruising.
Hey, before you go, if you're enjoying this content, I would so appreciate a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to this podcast. If you'd like to be on the show, there's a link to a form in the show notes, or you can email me at luxurycruisingpodcast@gmail.com. That's luxurycruisingpodcast@gmail.com. I hope to hear from you soon.